This time. And of course, the purpose of our workshop today is to review the proposed district department budgets for the fiscal year 2019-2020. And colleagues, I see that our finance officer, Ms. Scallon, is here, along with Dr. Hale in the front. And as you know, we have an agenda in front of us, and Ms. Scallon, I'll kind of, in a way, turn things over to you so you can ask the folks to come forward. I know you've already told them, and if you have any opening remarks, we certainly would like to receive those, and however you'd like to proceed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First, let's take care of a few little housekeeping. I laid a packet and one single sheet on your books.
Yes, ma'am.
And so the page that says, that's a single by itself says, wait a minute. Okay. The page that is landscape like this, that page needs to be replaced in your page 2 in your book because there was a typographical error. Academic was spelled wrong, and it was an extra D that was put in there, and I didn't catch that before I gave you the books last week. So if we can switch that page out and just fold up the other page, and we'll pick it up.
Okay.
Which one will it be in?
Page 2.
Oh, okay.
You should have a single sheet that I laid on top of your, there at your seat.
And that's district department's book?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thanks.
Okay. And then you received a little packet, and a few of these things are in your book, but I've given it to you in a packet so that way you don't have to keep flipping through your book. You can just lay it beside it, and it's easier reference. The first page is your department budget meetings, and those are your dates. Those are your times in the departments that you'll be looking at. Then there is a stapled landscape that says index of department discretionary project budgets, and that just this is a different sort. It gives you each department, and it gives you the fund source, the project number, the number of the page that it corresponds to in the department book, and the number of the page that it corresponds to in the project book. And let me start off by saying, you know, this budget workshop is for district department budgets. It's basically to go over the budgets for the departments to operate their department. But in previous years, there were some questions about projects, what projects fell under different departments and what positions were out of those projects for those departments. And so that's why I've provided you additional information. But the impetus of this meeting is district department budgets and what it takes to operate our department, like finance, what it takes to operate the workings of the finance department. Okay. All right, then what you'll see is a big packet that is paper clipped. Okay. And this is, the first one is your summary by department, and basically these are cheat sheets for y'all. This is every department alphabetical. I've done them alphabetical for y'all since probably cost center is not the most appropriate way because everybody doesn't know the cost center numbers.
Right.
And so it compares last year's beginning budget to this year's beginning budget and the increase and decrease. Okay? So when you look at that page, you see the increase or decrease, but then you may want to know where was that increase or decrease. So behind that there's a page, and it is by object. The first page that says summary by object, all departments, that shows you the objects with combined for all departments. So you can see the increases and decreases by object category. And then the next group of sheet you see is a page for every single department, every single object, and a comparison to the beginning of the year to the beginning of this year and where those increases and decreases are. Okay? So if you have occasion to want to drill down and know specifically where those increases are, and as we go through, some of the questions may take us right to that, and that'll be an easier way to probably look at them. Okay, and then the last two landscape sheets are basically the same information, but they are sorted two different ways. Okay, so the one that says district level position increases and decreases, and it says sorted by board approved and pending board approval. I thought that this would probably help you. The first page are positions that you have already approved, additions, deletions, modifications. And then the second page are things that are still pending approval, but they are included in this district department information, okay? And then the last sheet of paper, basically the same information, but what it does is it goes through cost center by cost center, and then out to the far right, you'll see two columns. One says board approved, and if it has an X, it was already approved. And the last column says pending approval, so if there's an X there, then that one's pending approval. But these two sheets here are exactly the same. The information is just presented in two different sorts to try to provide you some information. So is everybody good with that? Any questions on the information you've gotten in the packet this morning?
I can't promise I won't have some.
That's okay. That's what we're here for. Okay. So with that being said, then we'll move forward, and so the first area that we're going to look at is human resources and all the departments that fall under human resources. Now, Board Chairman, we can, how would you like to move forward with this? We can either go through department by department, or if you have questions on a particular department, we can address it like that. So it's really up to y'all how we move forward.
Well, I appreciate that you've given us a schedule and that you've got times and so forth here for presentations. And colleagues, any thoughts on your part about how you want to proceed?
I like it the way she has it on this previous one. I know that I'd printed the one that we had online, but I like having the time blocks there.
Okay.
So.
And I know for me, when I was new on the school board, it was the way we're doing it is very informational, will help y'all, and I think this will be beneficial for y'all too, since this is your first one.
So it's back to you, Ms. Gowns.
Okay. All right, so we will start with human resources, which is page 96. Okay, so the first page shows you your organizational chart, and it shows you the departments that fall under the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Your second page, page 97, is what we call a staffing chart, and that is unique to human resources. Those are the positions that are within the human resource department. Okay? Then if we go to page 98, page 98 provides you a recap of what the original appropriations were in 1819 compared to what the appropriations are proposed for 1920, and then the last column shows you your increase and decrease, and that's your appropriations. And then under that you see a block that says staffing, and that block shows you the different categories of employees: administrative, managerial, educational support, instructional, professional, and technical. And it takes what was approved at the beginning of last year, compares it to the beginning of this year, and shows your increases and decreases. So if you look at human resources and you look at the appropriations, it shows that there is $102,735 increase there. But that increase is due to several things, and one of them being raises for this past year, okay, and insurance increases for this past year, FRS increase for this past year, and then there was an approval of a position, the investigator position. So it was a specialist investigator, so that's what comprises that $102,735, and of that, $95,000 of it was attributable to the specialist investigator position. Now, when I say those amounts, those include fringe benefits, okay? So those are not just base salaries. So if you look at that, then you're talking $7,000 increase in salaries, insurance, benefits, okay?
Ms. Callen, I think it's great that you're saying that so that people who are just looking at it at face value, that's not necessarily what they're getting every year as far as salary. It's the hidden benefits that go in
Yes,
with the
sir.
health insurance and all.
I want to make sure that we do that. So then if you move down to objects 300 through 900, I mean, you basically see that you have about a $7,000 increase. Okay, $6,188 in purchase services, $150 in capital outlay, and then $900 in other expenses. Now, if you flip to page 99, that gives you even a more in-depth breakdown, that it takes you through each specific unique object and shows you what was requested, if there were any adjustments, and why those requests were made, what was the purpose for those requests. Like, for example, if you were to look at out of county travel, let's just say, that those are conferences and workshops that are necessary just to stay in touch with what's going on in the HR world, like the SHRM conference, equity, teacher recruitment, FIN, which is negotiations, certification training, and then FSAA conference. So all of those are germane and needed for the operation of that department. But that gives you the level of detail that is in, what's being requested.
And that, when you said certification, is that going to Dr. Hale getting certified in those personnel areas that he needed to have met the job description?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which is
Good
what you
deal.
would want. Okay, so then there's 3 pages that shows you the budget that was requested, and then the last page for that department is page 102. And I'm going to walk through this just because we do have new board members. Okay, so this is the department staffing summary. Section A shows you the positions that were approved for 2018-19 at the beginning of the budget year. Same time last year that we're doing for this year. Section B1 is anything that was added or deleted during the year. So as you can see, there's your investigative specialist that was added during the year, and then there was a position that transferred out to another cost center. Then section B2 is any additions, deletions, or modifications that are being proposed for the current year. So you see a district level secretary 12-month. They're proposing to eliminate a 0.5 of that position. And then section C is a plus and minus of all those sections. What you started with last year, what may have been approved during the year, what's being asked for this year, brings you to what your positions summary would look like going forward if everything is approved and goes forward.
Any questions? Any comments?
So is there an increase there, Rita?
An increase in positions or appropriations. If you look back on page 98, Okay, this is, these are your appropriations. I'm comparing last year, this time last year to this time this year. You'll see the overall is $109,973. But of that amount, $102,735 is related to salaries and benefits. Of the $102,735, $95,000 of that increase is related to that specialist investigator that was approved during the year. So there's about $7,000 that's related to salary increases and health insurance increases. And then, like I mentioned, there's about $7,200 worth of increases in other objects, purchase services, capital outlay, and other expenses. And the net in terms of staffing is a reduction of a half a unit, which is that district level secretary.
Okay,
that
we
we proposed.
added the investigator, but there's still a net 1/2 reduction. I'm trying to.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what you did was you added the investigator, you transferred a retirement specialist
Right.
out, so that when you're just looking at numbers, those two wash each other out, and then you're deleting the half a secretary.
And to follow up along with that, was there an offset by employing our own investigator versus contracted services that we were using?
Yes, sir, we were paying contracted services, so it's not a total net increase.
Right, so, and that's an important point in my mind for the public to know as well, that yes, we added a position, but we were also being compelled to have contracted services for investigative services, and now we don't have to have contracted services, so those funds are not being spent that way.
That's
Was it-
correct.
Does it look like it's going to be a net savings to switch from the contracted services to the employee, or have you looked at that?
Well, and it depends, to answer that, it depends
The
on
number
how
of
many.
investigations, what
Right.
was last year's amount?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Do you remember? Yeah, how much we, I don't, I can
know
find
that,
that out
yeah.
for you on a
It'd be
break.
interesting to know whether,
Okay.
if last year was typical, whether we're saving money or expending more.
I'll find out. And, when
And Ms.
we-
Galvin will get the exact number, but I do believe during the 2018-19 school year, this past school year, we were approaching already the $50,000 mark.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You had to come
'cause I
back to the board on
I
two
had to bring it
occasions.
back to the board, yes.
And then, of course, if you were to try to make that calculation, then you would have to move over the investigations that were taken by our employee.
Correct.
And try to figure them in somehow into the new position and what they would have cost there.
Yes, sir,
But,
that's correct. And remember that when that position was approved, the board said that we would approve that position, and then at some point in the future, we would look at it
That's right.
again and see if it still merit approval.
So looking at it, part is it going to be a net increase to the district or a decrease? And it would be interesting to at least get a rough estimate of the number.
Well,
If we
and-
had spent 50 and then we allocated some to the guy that is working, if there's some way to come up to a figure, because unless there are other factors, and I'm sure there are, about having our employee, but 50 versus 90 is not a good financial decision. So I'm just
Well,
wondering if we can come up.
But what
There
I-
were some other factors, and
Yep.
Mr. Bryan, I see, is there a comment you'd like to make? there?
Yeah, just real quick, I mean, I think the savings are, you're not going to see them on the top because now we have somebody that's working for us all year round, whereas when we were contracted, we were kind of at his mercy.
That's right.
And we had people who were not able to have their investigations done in a timely manner. So, now we have this person in, and I think we're going to be able to get those. And the turnaround is getting those people back to work, so we're not spending money on substitutes or whatever we have to do to replace. So I think in the long run, on the top, it doesn't look like we're saving, but in the, on the bottom side of it, I think we are saving because we're getting people back to work and, not those other expenses that you're not seeing there.
And I would just like to add on to that, so timeliness is an absolute factor, and then one of the other factors was just simply also communication. Communication when someone that you're contracting with might be in Tallahassee, and getting documents back and forth, as well as just simple phone communication, those were also some factors.
And like we said, the person that we hired knows that that's not a long-term position, right? Because we talked about that. We're going to look at that later, if, you know.
That was made crystal clear by myself
Yeah,
as well.
Right, I know. Yeah, I remember that, so that's good, so.
And just to say one last thing about this new position, and Ms. Scallon, you can help me with this. I think at one time, we had 2 positions there.
We did.
We did.
And so this really isn't, I mean, I guess you could say it's adding a position, but it might be more accurate to say to return to the level of staffing that we had. All right. Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, well, we're a little ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Well, I have a concern about something that's kind of overarching, and I'm not sure if this is the best time, but something that kind of struck me is what we're having to pay for cell phone use. And it's going up over 11,000 in the next year. And also, we're paying for long distance. Why is that? I mean, no one's paying long distance anymore. What's that about? Can someone answer that?
Could you tell me what you're looking at?
I'm looking at that sheet that lists all the different expenses, summary by object. And looking at that, we're paying over 58,000 in cell phones. So who is authorized to have a cell phone paid for by the district?
We have, there's a school board policy, and I don't remember the number, but it's in Chapter 2, and it talks about cell phones, it talks about the purpose of cell phones, it talks about the criteria, and there's 4 criteria. I'll try to remember them off the top of my head, but it's if it's a critical decision maker, if it is somebody who spends the majority of their time out in the field, if it is someone who is on call 24/7, and there's another one which I cannot
That's okay.
remember
Yeah,
what that
I
is.
understand.
So based on that criteria, then that department head makes the recommendation for that position to have a cell phone, and there's a form that's filled out, and there's different levels of cell phone stipends to cover that, and so that's the process.
That just seems like a large amount to, these days when everybody has a cell phone anyway. Maybe this was decided back when personal cell phones weren't as common, and so they issued a cell phone. But I'm assuming this is a stipend for, to pay back employees for their personal cell phone. They're not issued a cell phone under the district's name, correct?
That's correct, because at one time, we were doing that, but then what happened was it put us in financial implications through payroll and IRS, so that's when that school board policy was crafted in order to pay individuals a stipend to use their own cell phone for business purposes.
All right, now and that's the key point, in my opinion, Mrs. Scallon, is that these individuals are using their personal property for school-related business. That's the
correct.
salient
Correct.
point.
Do we have any idea how many of those stipends we pay?
I could get you that
That'd be an interesting
information.
number to look at.
I think it's over 40, something I saw, so it just seems like a lot of money. I'm just pointing that out. As we're trying to save money, these are things that, you can maybe cut back on, and it's increasing $11,000 for the next year. And that
Well,
seems like a lot.
I'll just add, you said 40, is that right?
About 40 people
So
is
that's
what-
maybe, I don't know, how many schools are there? I don't know if you would have
Yeah,
roughed it out,
40,
40 principals
about
or
40.
whatever
About
there
40.
is. In full disclosure, I never took the stipend when I was a principal, and I see Ms. Scallon, you saying that you didn't either. But some people do, and the board policy provides for that.
Right.
So, because they're using their personal property for work-related business, often, I'll just tell you, often after hours. So.
And I think it's fair to
Sure.
say that we all use our phones.
Right, of course.
But we don't get a stipend.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, we don't.
Okay.
Nor have I applied for one.
But I don't want one, but I'm just saying, yeah, I don't want one. And then, it just seems odd that we're also paying long distance, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. So Okay.
Now,
thank
I
you.
didn't know if that long distance, I know, now I'll just say this, and it may be cell phone long distance, I'm not looking at that sheet, but we do know that often some of our schools at one time had landlines, and there were long distance charges to use those landlines. Now, we've moved over to an IP type phone now, so I'm not sure how all that works out, but I know that at Meg's long ago, every month, I had to look over the long-distance phone calls and determine how they were made and who made them and why they made them. And those were real charges.
Well, I know, if we
Yeah, and-
have Cox as our provider, if you get your bill every month, if you have phone service, you're getting charged a long-distance fee, something, and so that's probably where it's coming
Could be.
from.
And I will look into that and see what that is. And I know too with, even though we are in the age of technology and email and all, there are things that have to be faxed, and
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
you've got
There
that
might be
kind
a
of
fax
stuff. So
fee.
so we'll check into that and we'll look at that. But going back to the cell phones, I also wanted to mention that this year, in negotiations, we agreed to pay cell phone stipends for ESC bus drivers to ensure the safety of those buses. So that's probably some of that increase.
Yeah, okay, so that would account for the increase. 'cause
Yeah,
there's
I
several-
can't say
yeah.
it's all of it,
Several
but
of those.
probably a majority of it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It would be interesting to do the math, though, if we've got 40 and the bill is 57,000, that's over 1,000 a year.
What,
Just
the chart I
curious.
saw showed varying
Yeah.
allowances.
And
Not
there are,
everybody got
I
the
believe the
same.
top
Right.
allowance is 900.
It is.
900,
So
yeah.
there could be individuals from the school level, individuals from the district level who also have a
Must be more than
cell phone
40.
allowance.
So every principal is authorized to get a stipend if they choose, is that correct?
If they chose to do so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then I'm sure some district staff as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I will say too, just to add to that, that oftentimes our phones would ring at 1 o'clock or 2 a.m. because
Right.
the alarm system was triggered. And it might have been a rat, or something just inconsequential causing the alarm system to go off. But
Sure.
still, you either had to make a call for someone to go there and, turn the alarm off, or make a call to the alarm system and explain, the company and explain
Right.
what was happening, or drive to your school, in many cases, driving across the bridge to get to Destin Middle School. So I know those are all situations that, can come into play here.
Right.
Certainly our IT people, I know when I was over the technology lab, many times that ITV headquarters where the satellites were, that thing would go off, and we'd have to, go through the realms of getting that alarm off, which was probably the most difficult one in the district.
And there's some more stuff here. When
I see
we
your point.
pay a stipend, then that means that we're able to have instantaneous contact.
That's correct.
Okay? All right, so we're ahead of schedule.
Wait,
Great. That's good.
can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
What you're saying is that by paying the stipend, that there's an
Well, if-
obligation or
Absolutely.
commitment? Okay,
Absolutely.
that when you call, they're gonna
Right.
answer. Okay,
Right.
so they're obligated, whereas if there was just their personal phone not being that, then they're on their
Well, I
personal
mean,
time.
yeah, whatever, people have other things to do.
Right.
All right, so I've got about 10:30, so we're good here.
Okay, so the next department that we will look at is Bay Area Office.
Okay.
I
On
mean,
schedule.
and I'm looking to y'all to give me direction on how you want to go.
Oh,
What page?
well,
Page 35?
10:30, I have,
Yeah, I have
Ms.
Sheila
Lightbourne?
Lightbourne.
Okay.
Is that how you
So
wanna
are
do
we
the
ready
One
to?
department
We all
within
have that
HR.
department.
okay, okay, all right.
What is it?
What is, I wanted to say was one department.
Does anyone have any questions about Bay Area Office, professional services, or risk management?
No. I see, I understand now. No, I don't.
Does anybody have any?
I do not.
Okay, so then we can move on to Ms. Lightbourne and curriculum.
Yeah, right on 10:30.
Sticking right to it.
I was trying to get us there too quick.
How's your timekeeping though?
23.
And
That's it.
review. Okay.
Welcome, Ms. Lightborn.
Thank you. Okay, so we can go to page 23, and this department is Assistant Superintendent of Academic and Student Services. Okay, again, the first page is your organization, page 23 is your organizational chart, which shows the Assistant Superintendent's Department, and then it shows all of the other departments under that department head, okay? So then if you flip to page 24, that is the staffing chart, that is the actual positions that are within that department. So, assistant superintendent and an administrative assistant. Okay, if you go to page 25, you will see again, and you can stop me at any time, you will see that appropriations, and let me just say under the cost center description, that gives you a description of the purpose and the responsibilities of each department. But going back to appropriations, you'll see that 1819 compared to 1920, there's an increase of $5,211. And again, the $5,211, there's no change in positions. That is attributable to salary increases, retirement, health insurance, and any changes that may have occurred in personnel. Okay.
Any questions there, colleagues?
Okay, and then again, page 26 and 27 is just a detail if you wanted to look at it by object and what they're requesting. If you go to page 28, again, you will see section A is where we started last year. Section B, anything that happened during the year, which this department nothing did. Section B2 is, are they requesting increases, decreases, modifications in positions for 1920? They are not. So section C is your recap of what is proposed for the 1920 year. So basically no changes in that department.
Okay, I'm seeing no comments or questions.
Okay, so let's go to page 75. Okay, page 75 is your staffing chart for curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And you see the Director 1 position, and then you see the positions under that department head. And what you will note is, if you'll remember back what I said, this is just district departments' discretionary budget that they operate their department from. On this one, you will see some other positions that are funded from projects, and that is not what's included in this book, but it was in answer to some questions we've had in the past to know what other positions and projects are under this department. Okay? Okay, so if we go to page 76, and you look at the appropriations, you will see a reduction of $332,020 and a reduction in staffing of 3 units. And that is, if you'll remember, that is from previous approval on a district reorganization proposal that was brought to you and approved by y'all.
And basically, those people went to schools, correct? No.
Well, what happened was, okay, so let's,
One did not,
All
one
but one.
resigned,
Okay.
and 2 went to schools.
That's
And
what I
it-
thought.
okay, if you flip over to page 79. You'll see section A, which is what we started with last year. Then you'll see what happened during the year. You'll see a specialist, 12-month, that was deleted, 70%. A director, 12-month, that was transferred. Then you'll see for the new year, the proposal is to transfer a specialist 30% and to delete a specialist 12-month. Okay?
Okay, I have a question about that on when you do 70% and then 30%. Can you kind of explain to me how that works?
Well, sometimes you have positions that may be split funded from different sources of revenue. So you may be paying for 70% out of discretionary budget, and you may be paying for 30% out of IDEA or title or something else.
So in this case, what would it be?
In this case, we deleted a 70% of a specialist. There was 12-month, effective July 1st, 2019, that was approved by the school board on May 28th, 2019. And then the next thing, we transferred a director position, 12-month, to cost center 9016,
Okay.
ESE .50, and center 9021. SIS ESOL psychologist was a .50 effective July 1st, 2019, which was also approved on May the 28th. And then we transferred a .30 of a specialist to cost center 9020, effective July 1st, 2019, and we deleted a specialist. So those are all board action
Okay.
positions that were approved.
So sometimes the cost is in this budget and other times it's in another, like a project or another.
It could be, but let
Um,
me just say this. Predominantly, district department budgets are funded out of discretionary, but when you get
Okay.
into the area of curriculum,
Mhm.
sometimes they are split coded because those positions typically are instructional support to schools.
Right.
So
Or they
that's-
may actually have a kind of a split job description.
Yes.
Where they might work in curriculum 70% of the
That's
time,
correct.
but they might work in ESE
Right.
30% of the time.
That's correct.
And thereby ESE would pay the 30%.
That's
Okay,
correct.
gotcha. Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. Okay, so if we want to go to page 85. Okay, so this is a staffing chart for ESE, and as you can see, there's a multitude of positions. And as you probably can also see is that most of these positions are direct support to schools. But I have listed all of the positions, the number of positions, and where they're all being funded from, okay? Okay, so if we flip over to page 86, you'll see under appropriations, there's an increase of $67,448 in total. Predominantly, it's made up of salaries and benefits. And then there's a net 10% of a position that's reduced. Now, if you want to see that, what those position reductions and increases are, you can flip over to page 90. And you can see, section B1, During the year, there was a teacher on special assignment, 10-month, that was deleted. There was a director position, .5, that was transferred. And then going forward in section B2 for the new year, we're proposing the parent liaison, 10-month, .40. So between the positions, the minor changes in positions, salary increases, health insurance increases, and retirement increases, that's what makes up your 60-some-odd thousand dollar increase, 67,448. Is everybody good?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's flip to page 168,
168?
I think. Am I looking
Okay.
at it wrong? 168, yes, sir. Okay, so this is student intervention services, ESOL, psychologist, and health services, cost center 9021. So you see the staffing chart, and again, you see some positions that are funded from projects, and they're teacher on special assignments, some school psychologists, some mental health counselors, and then what is at the district level is the director, the program director, and the district level secretary. Okay, so if we look at page 169, you will see on the appropriations, the proposed increase is $13,366. And again, predominantly made up of raises that were granted this past year, insurance, health insurance increases, and of course, state mandated FRS increases, and any changes in position. If you look at the staffing box section, you'll see that the net is a .50 reduction. And then if you go over to page 172, that will show you the increases and decreases. So if you look at section B1, during the year, we deleted a 12-month district level secretary. We transferred half of a director position to this department. And so those changes plus where we started last year is where we're proposing to go for this current year. And if you look at the section that says notes, it will walk you through. We deleted one district level secretary effective November 30th, 2018. We transferred half of a director 12-month from 9017 curriculum instruction and assessment effective July 1st, approved by the board on May 28th. So that was part of those reorganization proposal that y'all approved.
I have a question about the mental health counselors.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it says 10, the mental health assistants, and then on page 168, I'm looking at the bottom.
Okay.
And then 3 are paid out of Title IV,
Mm-hmm.
which, that was Tammy Ellis explained that to us, right? Yeah. Okay, so, can you remind me on the mental health assistance, did that come through the safety money?
That mental health assistant, that we received money, an appropriation from the state for mental
Okay.
health counsel, mental health allocation, and that's where that's being paid from.
Good, okay, that's what I thought. That helps us with that.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to page 163. Okay, this is student intervention services. Attendance, discipline, and athletics, cost center 9023. And so you can see the positions, specialist, district level secretary, and 2 TSAs, which are our attendance officers. Okay, so if you look at page 164, you will see the appropriations. There's a net reduction of $205,680 and a net reduction of 2 positions. And if you flip over to page 167, that will walk us through those positions. So if you look at section B1, we transferred a specialist, Safe Schools. We deleted a program director. We added a specialist, and we deleted a teacher on special assignment. So with that being said, then going forward for the 1920 year, you're basically looking at the district level secretary and the specialist in this cost center. And then if you'll look at the section that says notes at the bottom of the page, it will walk you through each item. Transferred 1 specialist, Safe Schools, 12-month.
I'll push it over to you.
2 cost center 9033, which is a new cost center. Deleted 1 program director, 12-month, and added 1 specialist, 12-month. That was effective July 31st, 2019, approved by the school board on May 28th. And then we deleted 1 teacher on special assignment, effective July 1st, 2019, approved by the board on May 28th.
I just have one comment real quick, and we've mentioned this a couple of times already, but what is a teacher on special assignment, just so the general public will know what exactly that position, that person was? What's a teacher on special assignment?
So in this case, teacher on special assignment, just being as clear as I can, it gives flexibility to a position. So in this case, in this department, you had a gentleman who was the teacher on special assignment, whose job responsibilities, in essence, were athletics. So it gives flexibility to a job.
Okay. And I think that's important so people understand that what we're talking about when we talk about somebody that's on a special assignment. It's just not like we're putting somebody out there just to do whatever. So there is a reason why we have them on special assignment.
With clear job responsibilities.
And
So their
sometimes
salary base is a teacher's salary.
Correct.
it is. Sometimes the district is the beneficiary of that because we get someone's expertise at a teacher's salary, and we sometimes require them to do director job or specialist job. So, but it's beneficial to the employee too because they get on-the-job training many times.
That's true.
Thank you.
Okay, and then cost center 9020, page 156. Okay, so this is staff development, cost center 9020. So as you see, there's a specialist position, .30's out of district discretionary, .70's out of title, and then you have an instructional coach, and but that's in a project. So basically, this department out of district discretionary has a .30. Okay, if you look at page 157, you see under appropriations, it is a net decrease of $3,615. No changes in positions. And then again, page 159 gives you the information as far as the positions are concerned. And you may ask, B1 shows .30 deleted, and then section B2 shows a .30 transferred. That was a change in personnel, I believe, because of retirement. And so that individual left, and then another one came to fill that. Plus, we were able, through the reorganization and eliminating some positions, there were some grant funds that were available, so we were able to put some of that financial impact into the area that they would be responsible for. So it was a matching. So basically, that is that department.
Yes, ma'am, and I'd just add, for a matter of public interest, that this would be an example of where superintendents and school boards have looked at various departments, and I know you know where I'm going with this. This is a department that one time that had 2 administrators and 2 12-month secretaries. And we can see what, if you want to say, austerity or budget cutbacks have done, and to the point that this is what we have today. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lightborn.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule. How do you want to proceed? Do you want to,
Whatever you'd like.
let's just keep going, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know if you want to recess or
Okay,
not.
so the
but you'll just let
next-
me know.
The next grouping is finance. So let's flip to page 58. Okay, page 58, it shows you the organizational chart, the CFO, and the areas that report to the CFO: accounting and financial reporting, payroll, budgeting and financial services, and purchasing. Okay, so page 59 is the staffing chart, and under the chief financial officer, these are the positions that are directly reporting to me, which is the administrative assistant, financial analyst, capital outlay, payroll supervisor, and the payroll clerks. Okay. So if you look at page 60, you will see on the appropriations that 2018-19 compared to 2019-20, it is a net increase of $41,396, and $43,396 is due to positions, and again, that is health insurance, step increases, and FRS.
And here again, Ms. Gallen, I see, of course, the math, the simple arithmetic here. But if I recall, wasn't your department actually authorized to employ another individual, and you've chosen not to?
Yes, sir. Last year, you were talking about the specialist position, and we gave up a specialist position as part of the budget reductions. And then this year, you'll see in one of my other departments that we're giving up a portion of an accountant.
Right. But of course, we all know that doesn't mean the work goes away.
No.
It just
No.
means that you inherit, or your folks inherit more
Yes,
of it.
my staff does, and,
Right.
and they are very good and willing to do whatever they need to do for the district.
All right. Well, that's what I meant about the number doesn't necessarily accurately reflect what's really happening.
No.
All right.
Okay, and then of course, page 61, 62, and 63 are the details if anybody's got any question. And then 64 is the department staffing summary, and there's no changes or proposals in this particular department. Okay, so if there's no questions, let's go to page 17. Okay, so this is accounting and financial reporting, cost center 9205. Excuse me. And so, again, you see director position, specialist, a district level secretary, an accountant, 2 financial analysts, and 3 accounts payable, district level secretaries. Okay, if we go to page 18, you will see when you compare the appropriations, the bottom line is a net increase of $22,863. Again, as you can see, that's attributable to salary increases this past year, health insurance increases, and mandated FRS. No changes proposed in positions. Page 19 through 21 gives you a detail information. And again, page 22 gives you the staffing information. And since there was no changes, there's nothing there. Okay. Okay, so page 41, if no one has any questions. Okay, so budgeting and financial services, cost center 9105. You have a director, you have .60 of an accountant, 4 budget analysts, and 1 district level secretary. So if you go to page 42, you will see the comparison from the beginning of last year to the beginning of this year, the proposal. There's an increase of $21,470 net. Again, that's attributable to salaries, FRS, and health insurance. And then in staffing, you will see a reduction of .40 of a position, and that was what I was mentioning to you a minute ago. So if you flip over to page 46, you will see in section B2, you will see accountant, 12-month, that's where we're proposing to delete .40 of a position.
So what happened there, Ms. Gallen? I mean, is someone leaving or?
Well, actually, I had someone that was an accountant, and then they retired, and they came back part-time.
Okay.
So they were there for 60%, so that 40% was vacant. So we
Okay.
went ahead and offered that up to help with the reductions that were needed.
So here again, you reduced your own budget.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that person's just part-time or 60%.
That's correct. Okay, so let's go to page 131. Okay, this is purchasing, cost center 9014. As you can see, it's a program director and 3 buyers. Again, if you look at page 132, you will see that the net increase is $17,281. Of that amount, $15,904 is attributable to salaries, benefits, FRS. Under staffing, there's no proposal for any changes. Again, page 133 and 134 give you detailed information of what's requested as far as operational items. And page 135, again, is your department staffing summary, and there are no changes, so there's nothing there in sections B1 or B2.
Questions, comments? Okay.
Okay, so now we can move to the next section, which would be Mr. Chambers. So we can go to page 173. Okay, so this is the Superintendent's Cost Center, 9002. The organizational chart, it shows you the superintendent and then the district department areas that report to the superintendent, the assistant superintendent of academic and student services, assistant superintendent of operational services, the assistant superintendent of human resources, the CFO, and special programs, schools, and principal evaluations. Okay, so if you go to page 174, it will show you the actual staffing chart for his department, which is himself and an administrative assistant. Okay, so if we go to page 175, and we compare appropriations last year to what's proposed for the new year, there's an increase of $14,148, and again, that's attributable to increases granted this past year, health insurance and FRS, and then some minimal increases and decreases in operational items, which just about equals zero in that area. And then staffing, there's no proposed changes. Again, page 176 and 177 give you any detailed questions you may have. And then if you go to page 178, that's your department staffing summary. And again, there's no proposed changes, so it is the same as last year. If there's no questions, we can go to page 120. Okay, page 120 is the Niceville Central Complex, cost center 9060. And what this cost center is, and we have one for each area. We have one for the Fort Walton area, the Niceville, and then the Carver Hill. And this cost center accounts for the expenditures for the operation of the actual physical facility, okay? So it encompasses utilities, phones, any custodial positions that we need to keep this complex operational and clean. So that's what this cost center is here in Niceville. So there's one custodian one, and then there's an hourly custodian at this complex. Okay, so if you look at the appropriation page, which is 121, you will see that the net increase is $35,381. Okay, and then you'll see that the staffing compared to this time last year is an increase of 0.53 of a position. So if we flip over to page 124, it will show you section B1 that there was a district custodian hourly that was transferred, that was at Bay Area office, was transferred to the Niceville complex, because what happened was, as as we had more employees that were being located here at this complex. Of course, that would take more manpower to keep clean than staying at Bay Area office. So that's why this position came here, and that's why you see that increase along with raises, health insurance, FRS. So that's the only change on this cost center.
I mean, I hate to say it, I mean, certainly it's the cost of doing business, but actually it's pretty easy to go through some of these because there are no new positions.
changes.
I mean, we understand.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what, we're ahead of schedule. Do we want?
Yeah, we are. I'm curious about, and colleagues, certainly if you want to recess or whatever, let me know. But I'm wondering, Mr. Horton's the last one on the, do you think he might be able to reach out to him and see if he might can arrive early? And then that way we can,
Yeah.
maybe when we break, we'll break for good, not have to come back. Is that agreeable?
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get him up.
Get to the lunch crowd.
Yeah, maybe get ahead.
Yeah, I think I need to go find it.
All right then. All right, Ms. Gowan, so let's go ahead then.
Keep going. Miss Cindy. Okay, so first.
Welcome, Ms. Gates.
All right, first cost center we want to go to is 9830, and that is page 47. Okay, so the first page is your staffing chart for career and technical education, cost center 9830. You have a program director, career and technical education. As you can see, .89 is paid out of discretionary, and .11 of this position is paid out of the CAPE project. You have a teacher on special assignment, 12-month. .51 is out of discretionary, .49 is out of CAPE. You have an office manager that's out of your discretionary, and then you have a TSA career recruiter 10-month that's paid out of CAPE that you just recently approved. Okay? So if we go to page 48, you will see that the appropriations compared to last year is a net increase of $19,843. And again, that's predominantly attributable to salary increases, health insurance increase, and FRS increase. And then you'll see staffing, it's a net reduction of 9% of a position. So if you were to go over to page 51, you would see under section B2, you would see teacher on special assignment 12-month, that's an add, and then teacher on special assignment 10-month, that was a delete. The add was .51, the delete was .60, so that's a reduction of .09, okay? And so that increase in the cost of that position is being paid for out of CAPE, so it was not an impact to the general fund discretionary budget, okay?
Is this the same person?
Yes.
So just, in other words, we just allowed them to be 12 months?
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay, so if there's no questions, we'll go to page 65, Community Affairs. Okay, so the staffing chart on Community Affairs is district level secretary is what is there. So if you look at page 66, you will see under appropriations, there's a net reduction of $96,956. That is attributable to, there was an elimination of a position in that cost center, and then your increases in salaries and benefits. And so your staffing shows a reduction of one position. So if you flip over to page 69, you will see in section B1, there was an elimination of a program director 12-month, and then that has been previously approved by the board. So that is the net change there.
And for historical reference, I would just add that that position was vacant for many, many years and was brought back, I believe, in 2014, and now is vacant again, or deleted, I guess.
It's deleted, yes, and
Okay. So how are we accommodating those needs?
we
there?
have,
I mean, the needs or the work didn't go away.
Absolutely not. So Mrs. Gates is assuming those responsibilities,
Oh.
as
okay.
well as her other responsibilities.
Okay. Wow. Oh.
Broad shoulders.
Well, that's kind of how it seems like it's working everywhere else.
I won't say broad shoulders, but
Adequate shoulders. There.
yes, sir.
Okay.
okay, so if there's no questions there, then we can go to page 150. Okay, so this, page 150 is the organizational chart, and you'll see there's a Director 1, Special Programs, Schools, and Principal Evaluation, and then Career and Technical Education reports to that position, and then they're responsible for the Community Affairs. Okay, so page 151, there's only one position there, which is Director 1. And then if you go to page 152, when you look at the comparison to the appropriations for last year, there's a net increase of $2,562. And again, most of that's attributable to increases that were granted this past year. No changes in positions. 153 and 154 are your detail pages. 155 is your department staffing summary, and since nothing has changed, it's the same as last year except for the increase.
So what was the capital outlay increase that's on there?
Capital outlay, okay, wait a minute, let me go back. Let's see. $1,000.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious
Yeah.
what that was. That
Let me
would be in
just
this.
see. Hold on, I'll tell you real quick. Special programs.
Seeing it on.
Okay, it was, they requested a $300 increase in Object 642 equipment, under $1,000. And then they requested $700 increase in 644, which is computer hardware. Okay, so the computer hardware, it's for the replacement of projectors, jump drives, and printers. And the equipment under $1,000 is to replace filing cabinets with secure filing cabinets.
You need a new filing cabinet?
Need one with box on
Move-
it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's it for you.
Anything else, colleagues? Thank you, Ms. Giggs.
Thank you.
And so,
Okay,
now we can go to the school board.
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Crawford, if you'd come up. Thank you.
Okay, so if everyone wants to flip to page 141. Staffing chart. This is, I'm sorry, cost center 9001, School Board of Okaloosa County. Staffing chart, 5 board members, manager / confidential secretary position, and an administrative assistant 2 position. So if you flip to page 142, this shows you your appropriations and staffing. Your appropriations compared to last year is a net increase of $33,177. Again, this is due to salary increases, health insurance, and FRS increase. And the increase dealing with board members is not that the board gave themselves an increase. That is something that is calculated and dictated from the state, so that's what you see there. Okay?
I thought we received it, I thought we had a decrease.
Not last year.
Last year, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Because what happens is we have to have a point in time to compare, and so we started last year, so then anything that happens during the 18-19 year as far as increases, health insurance changes, FRS increases, then that's captured in the cost starting with the new year. That's why.
That's going to be my question. Does this include the reduction that we knew we were going to get?
Okay. I did include that. But
You
but if something were to change, then it'll be captured for
Right.
this next year.
And that's because
At
of
the
the
point in
state.
time.
That's
This is
correct.
State
State.
calculation.
Yes.
It's nothing that the
That's
school
right.
board does.
Right.
That's right. So staffing, there are no changes. And again, your department staffing summary, which is on page 145, there are no proposed increases, decreases, modifications, so there's nothing there other than what was there last year. Thank you, Jan.
Well, this is why when one of our guest speakers said that they had 11 school board members, I was trying to calculate what this budget would have looked like.
Well,
Yeah.
I would just like to comment too on out-of-county travel. I mean, I appreciate the fact that there's money in there, but I think it's safe to say that we don't use all that, because I know for myself, I usually pay out of pocket to go to a hotel. I mean, the only thing that we get is the fee to actually go to these conferences and all that. So, so even though there is money there for us to travel with, I think it's safe to say all of us pretty much take care of our own expenses, so.
Yeah, the school board has always been very frugal in travel expenses, absolutely.
Yeah. Priceline does wonders, Joe, just so you know.
It's kind of like belonging to the Rotary. It's a service. You don't want to detract from what you're doing. So you pay your way.
Railways, bus.
Then that goes down.
I've done that.
And on, when it says the school board, I'm looking on 145, and it has, 12-month times 5. Okay, does that include our capital outlay money?
No,
in that?
no, this is just department discretionary. And this
Okay.
is the cost to operate your department. The
Oh,
capital
okay.
outlay is something separate, and it's not really attributable to a cost of you guys doing business.
Okay, because that, when you look at the salaries, that's more than that, so that's the whole operation, is what you're looking at, right?
Say that again to me, I'm sorry.
Where it says school board 12-month, you have 5,
Uh-huh.
is that strictly salaries there?
That's salaries and benefits.
Benefits,
So that
okay, for
includes
the
health
private
insurance, life insurance, dental, everything.
Okay.
FICA, retirement.
But that's established by state law.
But state, yeah.
That's correct.
State law.
That's
It's not-
correct.
It's not something that
No, that's
we're just
nothing,
doing.
nothing that you guys have voted for yourselves or anything.
Don't want anybody to think that.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. All right, colleagues, we're way ahead, but that's okay with me. Do you want to just keep going and go through the next
Yep.
one? Then recess? Okay, or adjourn. Welcome, Mr. Horton.
Morning.
Okay, so let's start on page 29.
Okay, if we're ready to proceed, then let's go to page 29. Assistant Superintendent Operational Services, Cost Center 9713. The first page, 29, is the organizational chart. As you can see, the Assistant Superintendent of Operational Services has the Carver Hill Complex that reports to them, custodial services, maintenance, facilities planning, school food service, school safety, information systems, and transportation, which is huge.
I was gonna say, Steve's got broad shoulders now. That's
You must be taking some mega vitamins.
That's what happens when you do a good job.
Okay.
CrossFit this week.
Give you one more.
Coincidentally.
Okay, so page 30 is the Assistant Superintendent, Call Center 9713. That's just his district department and his staffing, which is his position, and an administrative assistant too. Okay? So if we flip to page 31, you will see that the net increases for that department is $8,828, and as I mentioned before, it's attributable to what has taken place this past year in terms of salary, benefits, and staffing. There are no proposed changes. Pages 32 and 33 are detail information should you need that. Page 34 is your staffing. And basically what that shows is that if you look at Section A, that's what we started with. Section B, we have an Assistant Superintendent School Operations. We deleted that position. And then we transferred Assistant Superintendent of Information Systems to this cost center. So Section C, your net is the Administrative Assistant and the Assistant Superintendent.
And I would just like to point out, too, that we said it in such a rapid pace the other day that members of the audience or people watching might not have seen that that's a huge chunk that was cut, deleted, omitted, and then services combined, consolidated under one assistant superintendent where we had two doing those duties before. So I think that's just pretty huge to make sure the public understands that.
Yes.
Okay. And I would just point out that in looking through this entire notebook, there's not a single department that asked for a tremendous amount more. In fact, almost all of them deleted something or remained budget neutral. So I think that's just phenomenal for the level of services that we do for our schools to have been able to do that. So
And-
very commendable to all the staff.
And our performance.
Our performance
Performance
remains
of
at
our
the top.
teachers and our
Yes.
students.
Absolutely.
To be at the level it is
Exactly.
follow-up is just astounding.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, page 52. This Carver Hill Complex, cost center 9050. And again, this is the same as the Niceville Complex that we talked about. This just accounts for utilities, phones, custodial services to keep that complex running. So on your staffing chart, you see a district custodian 1 and a district custodian 2. So if we flip over to page 53, you will see under appropriations, Under appropriations, you'll see a net increase of $47,695. And you'll see under staffing an increase of 1 position. So if you flip over to page 57, you will see a district custodian on section B1. There was a district custodian 2 12-month that was added there, and that was July the 2nd of 2018. So that is last year edition, but it was after we had already done the book.
I have a question regarding that. Since I do have a office space up there, I'm curious, the need for 2 12-month district custodial services there. Can you explain to me real quick just what their job duties are? I mean, I see them both. I'm just curious what exactly. And that would go for Bay offices and Niceville too, so.
Right, so in the specific area in the north, the second custodian that was added right now's job responsibilities include the exterior piece.
Okay.
I know that Mr. Chambers has been working with some neighbors in that area who had complained about the state of the yard and the grounds, and so they've been working on that this year. That person also does a significant amount of shredding. Prior to this year, we've been contracting out our shredding to have someone come in, a truck come in and do that, and so now we won't be doing that any longer because that position's here on campus.
So that's an offset.
It
That's
is,
an
there's an
offset.
offset there.
And it's also an offset in that if we're performing our own lawn maintenance versus contracted, there's savings there as well.
So is that the alignment with the reduction in purchase services on the top page there?
Likely not, Dr. Kelly, because in the past that the purchase services for shredding was handled out of 9022.
Okay, different
The
department.
MIS cost center.
Okay.
And because of other things, we may have had some costs go up in that department, so you may not see it directly there.
Okay.
But there is some reduction.
And I guess my next question would be on the lawn maintenance. When we had a contract with the schools, and this, I just obviously missed that. I thought that included there's not much to mow here, but I mean, but for Bay and Carver, there's significant, but I just thought that was all included with that.
And I'll have to double check that, Mr. Bryan, but
Okay.
I believe the folks at Carver have been doing that, at least since I've been up there.
Okay.
And again, I'd go back, it's probably heavily weighed toward all of the
Right.
items and things that are on the campus
Right,
out there. As you
right.
can imagine, all the north end maintenance and pieces, that becomes the initial kind of dropping off
Right.
point for anything that they're pulling out of schools. So there's a lot up there that needs to be addressed, and
Right.
Mr. Chambers has asked us to do that.
Well, and I know we kind of flipped by the Bay Area office, and of course, we all did our homework on it, but, we're only using half of that facility, and just out of, having the custodials down there, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to do all the math here and see, is it beneficial to have 2 at one where we're only using half? And, Carver, there's, there is significant grounds up there that we do take care of, but, just kind of looking at that for maybe the future.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So any other questions on Carver Hill?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, all right, so let's go to page 70. Page 70 is Courier Services, cost center 9070. And we have 2 delivery personnel. And so we have 2 individuals that service the district and all of the schools. And we have had a modified schedule because 2 people can only cover so much
We used to
area.
have 3, if I remember.
Yeah.
I know, I think
yeah.
it's
And-
fabulous what those guys are doing, how they cover all that.
And with what they're doing it, because Have you guys looked at
Yeah.
those vans?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
they're
Yeah.
bad.
I rode with Steve
bad.
last year for a whole day. I see exactly what they do, and it's
I'm telling you.
incredible. So
I remember purchasing those vans, so
Yep.
we may, that may be in the future.
It was actually in the capital budget this past year, and we held off on doing that just because I think there are priorities, and
Right.
you know, we've done some work on the engines and things like that, but it's about time. They're 200,000 miles each plus.
Yeah,
So-
and if you look at like the Courier, like Brian's van, for instance, I mean, really, when it comes, I can tell it's always Brian because it's, you know, the paint's chipping off and, you know, it's representing our school district but it kind of doesn't look good when, you know, it's rust on it and all that. But it just goes to show you that we're trying to get every last mile out of those vans, but for what they do, I mean, they do an awesome job, so.
And didn't they have some, I'm not sure when this happened, but didn't they add all the libraries throughout the county?
There's a
to their-
It's
contract.
a contract for that.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
So that's kind of new. So that was an addition.
That's been in play for a while, and so we do, and Dr. Kelly's aware of that as well. So we have a contract, and that should be coming to the board relatively soon.
It did. It's
on this. Oh, it did, I'm
It's
sorry.
Yeah,
on- it's on
the
this
next
one.
one.
Oh, was, okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
But it does add to their workload, of course, no
But,
question.
but the revenue we get for that pretty much pays for all the gas for the whole year, pretty much.
It has,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
And we like to have partnerships with those other agencies to kind of support them,
Yeah.
because from the standpoint, they're saving an entire employee salary and a vehicle to be able to work with us.
Plus, we go right by those facilities anyway, so it just.
And we have opportunity to partner with them for summer programs for our students, for summer reading and that kind of thing.
But what about their schedule? Has that changed?
We work with them throughout the year on schedules, and the library folks are fantastic in terms of flexibility. You know, when we have something that comes up in our district where we've got to adjust our schedule, they're very amenable to working with us, and they're essentially transporting books to and from the libraries for folks who want to check something out, and
Yeah.
it's not available at a library, so we do our very best to keep a schedule with them, but they're very easy to work with.
And the courier service, at one time, it was every location, every day, but then that changed. So now it's still alternating, not every day does each site have service,
That
right?
is-
Long
that
time
is
since we
correct.
had daily courier service to
Yeah,
every
but I
spot.
remember that. That was
A long time.
amazing, every day. That,
Well, some things like the online TDE form that's been created
Right.
eliminates the need to have some things go back
Yeah.
and forth that
Mhm.
are time sensitive, so that helps some.
And then in certain times when they're having to do, for example, excessive, printing things that have to be delivered.
Like
That's
testing.
always, that's
Testing.
really
I remember
challenging.
those days.
Or
ma'am.
testing and all those things. So
Yes,
they
ma'am.
do really a great job at handling that.
Well, and
For
we have
just
a number of folks that fill in when needed, because obviously if a courier is out ill or something like that, we've got a number of folks at the north end that are trained to do courier runs in a pinch if we need to.
And is there, I'm assuming there's a backup van in
Um,
case one goes down?
We wish.
Your
We
truck or
wish.
something?
Uber.
We wish we had a
Uber.
backup van.
We're prepared for everything at the moment.
Yeah.
Unless the two vans together bump into each other. We're prepared.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so if we flip to page 71, you will see appropriations. It's a net increase of $6,088, $4,068 of that's attributable to the increases granted this past year in terms of salaries, benefits. Their staffing is proposed to remain the same. Page 72 and 73 gives you detail. And then page 74, courier services. Again, there's no changes, so it's basically the same as it was this past year.
You know, one quick shout out for Brian, who does the courier service. He was actually helping with all the graduation videos too. So he does other things, and Steve does a wonderful job too. So
Okay, let's move to custodial services, page 80. Custodial Services, Cost Center 9006. You see the staffing chart. District level secretary, a zone, there's 4 zone managers, and there's 4 3.5-hour custodians, but that's out of the custodial project. Okay. So if we move to page 81, you will see there is a net decrease in appropriations from last year of $113,710, and there is 1 staffing reduction. And if we flip over to page 84 and you look at section B1, you see what that reduction is. It was a specialist 12-month. It was approved on May the 28th, which was part of the reorganization. So that's $101,504. And so what is left in that custodial services is a district level secretary. Okay, the next is page 91. Facilities Planning, Cost Center 9007. The staffing chart, you have a program director, a district level secretary half-time, and a plan inspector building official. So if we flip to page 92, you will see the appropriations comparison going forward for 1920 shows a net decrease of $45,199 and a net decrease in positions of half of a unit. So there's a half a unit of administrative managerial increase and 1 educational support decrease. So if we go ahead and flip over to page 95, excuse me, 95, and if you look at section B1, that walks you through district level secretary 12-month. That's proposed to delete that position. Director facilities planning and maintenance, that's half a unit deleting, and program director facilities planning adding 1 position. And this basically was all approved at the May 28th meeting. And so if you plus and minus everything, then you get to section C, which leaves you with district level secretary, plan inspector, building official, and a program director.
And so on that district level secretary that's .5, where's the other part? How
She is split. Hold on, just
she comes under another cost?
delete it. Let me make sure. District, deleted 1 district level secretary 12-month. So they deleted a district level secretary, the whole position. And it's half of a director that was deleted because it was split between facilities and maintenance.
Okay, but on section C where it says district level secretary 12-month and it's .5,
Yeah, that's what was already left in there because they had 1.5.
okay,
Split funded
Mhm.
somewhere else.
okay, great, thank you.
Just asking where's the other half of
I'd have
It's
to-
in maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so,
in an
Yeah.
upcoming project.
so
It's an
that
upcoming-
secretary is for both, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it's split.
And
Okay.
It's in-
read the plan
Uh-huh.
inspector, building official, is that a new position?
No,
No, sir.
That's the same, right?
it is. It's
Yeah.
Mr.
I thought
Cox.
so.
Okay, so the next cost center is Information Systems, cost center 9022, and page 103. Okay, so 103 gives you your staffing chart. And then you see the various positions in that department, and basically, that's the department that takes care of all of our technology needs and FTE and processing at night and document data technician, all kinds of different things there. Our broadcasting technician, mobile learning analyst, assessment.
That's a different one.
Is it? Okay. Okay, so let's go to page 104. And I'm sure I didn't do a good job saying everything that that department does, but it does have it in the cost center description. But under appropriations, as you will see, the net increase for that department is $3,476. Of course, with that many positions, you know that with the salary increases, health and everything, they have a reduction, which is why that is $3,476. So they had a lot bigger reduction. And so they proposed to decrease one position. So if we go over to page 108. Okay, Section A is where we started last year. Section B1 is what happened during the year, which is a teacher on special assignment, 10-month. Document data technician was added. And then Section B2 is what's proposed for the new year. Of course, the Assistant Superintendent Information Systems was transferred to a new cost center. And then teacher on special assignment was deleted. And then if you plus and minus those changes, you come to Section C, and that lists all of your different positions. And then the section that says notes will walk you through each one of those additions and deletions and when they were approved.
Mr. Horton, what does that teacher on special assignment mainly do in that position?
Is that what
Well,
it
it's
was
deleted now.
deleted.
Okay, but didn't it get added back?
Well, it moved over as a specialist because it was wasn't it the safety one?
No, ma'am.
No.
That was
Okay.
the teacher on assignment. It wasn't in our original budget, I don't believe, last year. That position was going to be working with homeschooling.
Oh.
And we absorbed that.
Okay, all right. So I see
Because-
it's added, but then I see it's, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this, Ms. Vancheck, A shows where it was added October of 2018, and then it's being deleted
Okay.
for the new year. So I think
So
that was temporary.
just for the picture of it, I think our Okaloosa online office has a single administrator running that, and they've got, I think, close to 5,000 courses completed this past year, and they've got a district level secretary, but that, we had a retirement during the year last year of a district level secretary that was overseeing the homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that program over up in MIS last fall. So that district level secretary essentially was deleted from that budget and was added to my budget at some point during the year, or at least now. And so it was a net change there, but so we just absorb that in the Okaloosa online area, because a lot of homeschool kids still choose to do virtual courses as well. And so it just seemed like a good fit for people to do it. It is a lot of work because we've got 1,200 to 1,300 homeschool students as well.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay. Any other ones? Okay, so let's move on to page 109. Which is Instructional Technology Services, cost center 9012. And you see we have a specialist that's really paid out of digital classrooms. That's a project. And then the TSA district base, that's out of a digital classrooms. So those are both being paid by digital classrooms. But if you flip over to page 110, we do provide a minimal operational budget. So if you look at it compared to last year, it was $3,500 last year, $3,300 they're requesting for the new year, so that's a reduction of $200. Page 111 and 112 give you the detail of what that $3,300 is comprised of, and of course you don't have a staffing summary page on that because there are no positions paid out of the discretionary budget.
So the digital classroom, is that like a project? Is that
Uh-huh.
what that is, that we get? So is that state or federal or?
State.
Okay.
Okay, so next let's go to page 113. Maintenance, cost center 9409. And the staffing chart, you see you have a program director, maintenance, and you have a district level secretary. And then, of course, you have positions in all of the different skill trades that are needed for the district: air conditioning, electrician, plumber, water treatment, carpenter, heavy equipment operator, mechanics, welders, grounds. So those are all the different positions under maintenance. And your site-based technicians are here also for the schools.
I noticed we have 23, and how many schools we have. So, I mean, we're spreading them out, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another department that we're getting more than a big thing for our buck. I mean, it's what they have to do, and with the condition of our buildings is phenomenal, what they're able to do with just really this few people and the money that they have to work with and things they do, so.
Okay, so page 114. If you look at your appropriations compared to last year, it's a net increase of $58,024. Excuse me. And again, that's attributable to increases in salaries and benefits from this past year. And then in your staffing, it is a net reduction of half a unit. So if we flip over to page 119, Section A is what we started out with last year. Section B1 are changes that occurred during fiscal year 18-19. And so as you can see, there was a deletion of an air conditioning refrigeration 12-month position, addition of a carpenter, addition of a program director, maintenance, deletion of half of a director, facilities planning and maintenance, and then deletion of an electrical equipment and cabling installer. And again, the director positions are what has been previously approved through the reorganization. And all of these have been previously approved. So if you plus and minus those positions, that takes you to Section C and all the various position types and numbers of positions. If there's no other questions, then we can move to page 146.
Ms. Gowan, going back real quick on our site-based technicians, are they hourly or salaried?
No, they're salary.
Okay.
They fall under the collective bargaining agreement for the educational support. Okay. So page 146, school safety, cost center 9033. And as you can see in the staffing chart, and this is a new cost center for 1920, you can see there's one specialist position. If you go to page 147, this cost center was not there last year. It's a new cost center and a new position. And of course, as you all know, was mandated by the state in the initiative for school safety throughout all the districts in Florida. That increase is $92,383, and then there was an increase of one staffing unit. That's just because we're establishing that cost center. Okay. And 149, page 149 is just a recap of what I just said. So if no one has any questions on that, then if we can move to page 160, which is student assessment, cost center 9013. And as you see the staffing chart, it's one position, evaluation and differentiation accountability analyst. So if we flip over to page 161, and again, it has the cost center description. And so if we look at appropriations, the net is an increase of $7,882. And again, that's attributable to the salaries and the benefits, and predominantly the benefits. And then staffing remains the same. Page 162 is just the detail for what I just talked about on the appropriation and staffing page. Okay, if we're good there, then let's move to page 179. And that is Transportation Central Zone, cost center 9213. And as you see, that's program director 33%. We have one director, and he's split among our entire district. So there's a north, south, and central. So we split him across all three of the transportation areas. And then under him in this particular zone, you see all the positions, which are bus drivers, vehicle foremen, mechanics, bus monitors, transportation aides, laborers, a route coordinator, and a district level secretary. Okay, so if we flip over to page 180, as you can see in the appropriations, the net increase is $85,234. And again, that's predominantly attributable to increases from this past year. No changes proposed currently in positions, even though we are trying to recruit bus drivers. We don't have enough.
Have we had any response to the bonus offering?
I think it's just now gone out.
Right.
So we'll hope.
Too early to tell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so page 181 through 184 has all the detail.
So if we were to add on some new bus drivers, how does that work on the budget? you would just come in and change that?
Yeah, because I always keep a reserve in the transportation department to fund those positions, because I
So
know.
basically, how many are we down? I mean, are we looking at hiring 10, 20? I mean,
I think if we could get 10 more, we'd be very happy.
Okay, so,
but
yeah,
we
I was
could
just trying to-
Probably use 20.
okay.
So,
And that bus driver position, is that considered a part-time job, or? Because I know they work in the morning and then they work.
I think
It
Mr. McKinnis
depends.
is here, and that's governed by the contract, the
Well,
master
and the
contract
route.
with,
Okay.
and Ms. Scallon, so
They're all guaranteed full hours,
Oh.
it's just full-time.
Oh, okay,
Benefits.
okay,
And the hours vary between 4 and 8 usually.
Okay.
We average about 5.5 or 6 hours per bus driver.
depends on their route and everything, yes, okay. Okay, thank you.
And extracurricular requests, too.
yes.
Huge.
Yeah. But they get the benefits.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
positive thing.
Yes, ma'am. And just about everybody in our transportation shops have their CDL, and so are capable of driving a bus
Yeah.
when the need arises, which it does.
Right, yeah, I hear that some of them have to really come through for it, so appreciate that.
Okay, so 181 through 184 gives you any detail that you might want to look at. And then 185 basically is the same thing that I talked about in the appropriation staffing page, because there are no proposed increases.
So our maintenance with our bus, that
That's the
seems to be,
mechanics.
huh?
Mechanics.
Yes. I was just concerned that, that aging fleet, that we may have additional costs as our fleet continues to age.
Well, and they do a great job working on the buses and keeping them running, and it's a catch-22 because, as I mentioned, we have mechanics that have their CDLs, and so when they're, should be in the shop repairing and working on our buses, maybe they're out driving a route in the morning or afternoon. So it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Did we look at having, when we were talking about extracurricular, at having coaches or other employees did we do that? Have the
We do, and Jay would know specifics, but we do have certain coaches that have their CDLs, and remember, we have a couple of employees and our route coordinators who are licensed to do that training at the state level and do all of the required hours and testing for folks to get their CDL. So I think we encourage that, right, Mr. McGinnis?
We do. And when I spoke to the coaches at their annual meeting about a month ago, I put it all on the table, how they can do it, and then we pay for the training. We even provide some of the schools with an old bus, so they can keep it there on the property and drive it when they need it, instead of having to get a bus.
Oh, that's
So
good.
We make it very available for them, and as easy as we can to get them a license and drive when they need it.
Is this open to employees beyond, like, other teachers? Would they,
Yes.
if they wanted to, they could do that? So they want to,
As long as they are affiliated with what they're driving for, then the contract says they can drive it. So if a fifth grade science teacher wants to take them on a field trip to the Science Museum, she can have a license and drive the bus. So we'll train anybody at the school level.
and that's been put out to the teachers? Because I haven't heard that, so.
Put it out to all the principals.
Principals,
Yes.
okay, yes, okay.
Yes.
Great, I think that's good. Good, thank you.
And just one follow-up to, I think it was last year that we were able to, in the capital budget, get some new buses, or, excuse me, prior to last year. And then this past year, we got some from Escambia County.
Right.
At this point in time, with the priority being safety in the district for this upcoming capital budget, which you'll be seeing, I wouldn't anticipate seeing any requests for new buses in the 1920 capital budget, because that's just kind of, putting priorities where they need to be at this point in time. So we rely on those mechanics to keep our buses safe and on the road for this upcoming year.
What's the average age of our bus fleet?
Probably 15 years old, 14, 15 years old.
And that's probably older than standard, right?
Most people get rid of at that age. But we have some that are 20, 23 years old. But we have some that are 2 or 3 years old, so we have more older ones than we do newer ones, but
Okay, so, let's move to page 186.
While we're turning, I might just add that we're not the only district in that spot. A lot of districts would love to upgrade their fleet, and a lot of districts are heavily recruiting for drivers too. So I don't want anyone watching to think that we're in a pigeonhole over here and we just don't have that right. We're right along with everybody else unless they have the sales tax.
Well, and
Just
Dr.
throw that out
Kelly,
there.
you mentioned that, and this weekend I was going somewhere and I went past another district's, one of their bus garages, and they have a half-cent sales tax, and it caught my eye because they were so shiny and all. They just had a whole parking lot full of
That's right.
2020. The numbers were 20-16.
I think I've driven by that same area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
You're
did
right.
buy, 10 buses a couple of years ago? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then we got the not new, but new to us and younger ones out of Escambia County, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Last year,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
They were actually surplused.
Didn't I hear they
That's
might be
correct.
offering
Us.
us some-
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I hear they
So-
might be offering
Because they were
us some
aging.
more?
Yeah, so what the public needs to
What's that?
know is that we need that revenue to buy those buses. And so,
Among other things.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's part of our
Including
infrastructure.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
sir.
like you said, if we could get the sales tax, that would be great.
Okay, so page 186, Transportation North, cost center 9113. Staffing chart again. This is another portion of J as program director, and then, of course, all of the corresponding positions for this zone. So, if you look at page 187, appropriations, compared to last year, you'll see an increase of 338,161. Of course, they have about 116 positions in this cost center, and then we had the increases in salaries and benefits. But in addition to that, we had to factor in an increase for fuel, because fuel is up from what it was last year this time and what it had been projected last year, so we have to take that into account. So that makes up a big chunk of this increase.
And what's interesting, in my opinion, is if you look at the bus driver units per zone, that of course, we have 34 in one zone, we have 70 units in one zone, and then we have 56 in another zone, which kind of gives us some insight into our demographics and our mobility, if you will, of our students.
Yes, sir.
And we also have
There's-
two schools that just have their own dedicated bus drivers.
That's
so-
correct, and those are included there, but the geography of the north end is significant, so you've got a bus and it can't make a run and
Yes.
pick up and fill up.
That
Right.
makes a
It's got to
difference.
travel 20
Right.
miles to just fill up the bus, so
Right.
you need more buses in there just because of the distances.
And more drivers.
More drivers, yes, sir.
Okay, and then page 188 through 192 gives you any detail that you might want to look at. And page 193 is just a detail of the position types that tie to the appropriation and the staffing. And since there was no proposed changes, additions or deletions, it remains the same. And if no questions, then let's go to page 194. Okay, Transportation South, cost center 9313. Again, you see the staffing chart, and this is the other third. Now we make Jay whole as a program director on all the zones. And again, all the corresponding positions. If you flip over to page 195, see the appropriations increase is about $189,000. Large percentage of that is attributable to the increases, and then again, a large piece of that increase is due to factoring in an increase in fuel. No increases in staffing. 196 through 200 is your detail for any object that you might want any information as to what it's being used for. Page 201 is your staffing summary. There's no increases or decreases, so again, there's no changes here from last year as far as positions. And then the only other thing I would say to you, if there's no, flip to page 202. Okay, this is your debt service, and what I'll draw your attention to is if you look at the revenue comparison and look at the column before that dark black line compared to the column that's titled fiscal year 2019-20 estimated new revenue, okay, you'll see that last year I had to fund $7.8 million worth of debt, and for the new year I'm proposing $6.4 million worth of debt. And of course, the funding source for debt service is capital outlay. So what that means for y'all is that we look like we have, or we do, about a $1.4 million reduction in what I'm going to have to fund that debt service. So that means that you're going to have another $1.4 million in capital that you're able to use. So I just wanted to mention that to you, and I think Mr. Horton's going to bring that forward as far as the proposal for capital.
Good. Good.
Wow, that's a good positive thing. Great.
So, colleagues, are there any other questions or comments? Superintendent, go ahead.
I do, if you would. First of all, I'd like to say, just looking at the budget book that you have here in front of you and the other two that we've received, the amount of time and work and effort that goes into creating this so we can all understand it is something that I know we very much appreciate Ms. Scallon and her staff for doing this.
Yes, thank you. This is great. A lot of work.
The other thing that I would say is, so today, just going through this is months of conversations and meetings and making decisions with employees in mind, with students in mind. And one of the things that we've talked about previously is we have done some realignment. And when you do realignment, a lot of conversations have to be had if it's going to go as smoothly as you would like it to go. So I do very much appreciate our district staff, our senior staff, our schools, because there are people, like we've alluded to today, that are doing more. And then at the district level, there are a lot of individuals doing more and taking on additional responsibilities. And for that, I do appreciate each and every one of them. As you know, each of you, we've had a lot of conversations over the last number of months, and from the bottom of my heart, I absolutely appreciate the input that you've given. We've worked together, I think, extremely well to get to where we are today. And I know if we would all love to have as much money as we would like and make all the decisions that we would like. But I think we're also tasked with being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and I think that we're doing that. But your cooperation in this is critical, and I appreciate that. And just lastly, once again, Ms. Scallon, and I'll even say Rita, you have done an absolutely fantastic job navigating all the different requests and putting all of this together and ensuring that we have a balanced budget. So I appreciate that.
Well, And I appreciate that, but I have to give the credit to my staff. They are outstanding, and if it was not for them, I wouldn't be able to do the job I do.
I just have a couple of comments, if I could. One, just to be a little enlightening here and to liven things up a little bit, entertaining. Why didn't you do this when I was on the district staff? I remember going in with our staff budget books and having those notebooks around the table in the conference center downtown and having to go from table to table and justify to every department, district department, what we were asking for. So I very much appreciate this process sincerely. Going from that kind of day to this process, I think is very cohesive, and I think it's much simplified, and it helps you see a tighter alignment between what is being asked for, requested, and what's being funded and where it's being funded from. So I appreciate the process. And I'll echo again what I said earlier. It's amazing to me and very much appreciated that instead of only asking the schools to make cuts, the district departments have made cuts, and I appreciate that very much.
And what I'll add, and certainly defer to the attorney, but so what has happened is that in accordance with law, the superintendent and his staff have presented to the school board a balanced budget. And we will have some other meetings coming forward, and in my experience on the school board in the past, there might have been some suggestions from board members about modifications or changes to this budget. And so, Ms. Scallon, I don't want to put you on the spot, but should there be a board member that has suggestions or thoughts, is there a way that works well within your department on how to look at that or accommodate those kinds of things? I mean, should they reach out to you and let you know so you can take a look at some of those ideas and suggestions, or just bring them up at the table? What would be the best?
Well, if there are questions or feedback or input, then I certainly can provide any information
Okay.
that might be needed. But I guess what I would first say is that if there are those needs, requests, concerns, that they would talk to the superintendent
Okay.
first, and then the superintendent can get with me on any adjustments or any modifications that might be
And then that way
desired.
we can maintain a balanced budget and
Yes.
comply with the law. Okay. All right. All right, colleagues, anything else or thoughts? Mr. Attorney, anything you got? Ms. Scallon, we're good?
I'm good.
We're all good? All right. We're adjourned.
Good job.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you can take it if you want. Anybody will look at it.